Hi everyone, today we're going to practice some aspects of attribute tables in GIS in the form of a small project. So as you know, a vector data model consists of both geometry and attributes. Attributes are characteristics of a location. For example, for a person, attributes can be age, gender, occupation, and so forth. Or the attributes for a city can be the name of the city, population of the city for elderly people, average household incomes, and so forth. So in the previous lab we saw that we can see attributes of each feature on the map using identify buttons. So if you open up your the arc map, this one was identify button that we could use this button to see the attributes for each single feature on the map. But how about if you want to see the attributes of all of the features in a feature class and do some calculations on it? So if you haven't already added the data, please load lab3_data shapefile. So you should go to your Edge drive, GIS lab, lab3. Here put your lab3 zip file, extract it, and then go to your arc map, add data, connect to folder, to Edge, GIS labs, and then OK. So lab3, and then here you can see the breast cancer shapefile, which is a polygon shapefile. If you open up the shapefile, so you can see the name and geometry and also the preview of the shapefile here. So this shapefile contains number of deaths in each state of US because of breast cancer for the year 1999 and 2015. Also it contains female population of US states for these 2 years. So to see the attribute table of layer, simply right click on the name of the layer, this one, in the table of content, and select open attribute table. When you open attribute table of breast cancer shapefile in US, you can see that it's been arranged in several columns and rows. So today I'm going to introduce you some important aspects of attribute tables. So each record or row in attribute table, each line or each record in the attribute table equals to a feature on the map. Okay, for example, if I select a record, this one, in the attribute table I can see that a feature on the map has been selected. To remove selection, I can easily use clear selection, this one or this one, doesn't matter. So clear selection. So let's select some states on the map. So you know that in order to select a feature on the map, we use select features, and then we select some features on the map. So if you select some features on the map, you can see that automatically in the attribute table also features have been selected. And we can see that 8 features have been selected, and the total number of features, this value is always shows the total number of features, which is 51 features or 51 records in total, or 51 states in the US. Okay. Attribute table consists of rows and columns. So columns here show some attributes or fields, also known as fields. Okay. Some of the fields are mandatory. For example, FID is mandatory, which means that we are not able to make any changes in this field. So if I want to right click on the header, and then if I want to, for example, delete this field, it's disabled. Okay, you can't remove or delete this field. Okay. Also we have a shape field which shows you the type of the or geometry of the field, and in this case is polygon. Okay, but we also have some other fields such as the name of the state, number of deaths because of breast cancer in 1999, population in 1999, population of females in 1999, number of deaths in 2015, and population in 2015 for female. So these data were downloaded from CDC WONDER website. The question is, what was the female population in Ohio in the year 1999? So this is population of female, and if I find Ohio, which is here, so this value shows the population of female in 1999. So which is the intersection of this column and this row. So let us start working with the attribute table in the form of a small project. We want to map out a spatial variation of the breast cancer rate for 1999 and also 2015, and then calculate the difference between the rates from 1999 to 2015. So in the first step, we need to calculate crude rate of breast cancer for the year 1999. We have to do the calculation in a separate field. So how can I add a field or column to the attribute table, an empty field? Right click on the click on the table options and then select add field. Here you can specify a name for the field, like rate underscore 99. Okay. Again, never use a space in naming the fields. So let's see what happens if I use a space. For example, rate space 99 and then click OK. So it says that the specified field name rate space 99 is invalid because it contains invalid characters, which is a space. Do you want to automatically rename the field to rate underscore 99? Okay, so I click on no, and then I put the underscore because there are still some other additions that I need to add. So the question here is how ArcGIS can understand that this field contains numbers, not descriptions such as name of the parks or type of the cancer. So you have to tell ArcMap that this field contains numbers. So in the type, we can tell ArcMap that what kind of data type is allowed in this field. Okay, you have several type of data. So the first one is short integer. Short integers are whole numbers such as -2, 2, 0, 32 and so forth. Range of short integer is between -32,000 to +32,000. So what if you want to store integers outside of this range, such as 1 million? You have to use another data type which is called long integer. For example, if the attribute is population of each country, you have to define data type as long integer. So it depends on the application. If you want to save decimal numbers such as -1.3, you cannot use integers or long integers. Instead, you should use floats or double data types. So float and double is for storing decimal numbers. So similar to integer and long integer, floats have limited capacity for decimal numbers, but double can store very large decimal or fractional numbers. Okay, and finally, if you want to store text such as name of the states, type of cancer and so forth, so you should use text data type. For this project, as the result of this field is going to be the crude rate or number of cancers, number of deaths because of the breast cancers, overpopulation, which gives us a decimal value, you can either use a float or double data type. So I select double data type because it has more capacity for storing larger values. So select double and then click OK. Keep in mind that after you add a field, you cannot change its data type. Okay, so in this case, if I had used integer for crude rate, which was wrong, I have to delete the field and add a new field with the data type of double or float. Okay, so how can I delete the field? From right click on the header and then delete field. So when you click on delete field, it gives you a warning that deleting field cannot be undone. Okay, so it's highly recommended to always save your original data and work with a copy of your data. So click no, we're not gonna delete this field. But if it was the integer number, we had to delete the field and add a new field with the data type of floats or double. Another characteristic which is applicable for both the numeric and categorical attribute is sorting field values. For example, which state had the largest number of breast cancer in 1999? So let's find the population of breast cancer in 1999, which is this field. And then I right click on the name of the field or the name of header of the field and then click sort descending. And here I can find that California had the largest number of breast cancer in 1999. And if you right click again and then sort ascending, I can see that Alaska had the lowest number of breast cancer in 1999. You can also sort the categorical fields, such as this field. You can sort it ascending. Alabama is the first one, and descending, Wyoming is the last one. Now let's turn back to the question and calculate the crude rate of breast cancer. We're gonna populate this field rate of 1999 with breast cancer crude rate. Okay, so in order to do some calculations of on the field, we need to use field calculator. So right click on the header of this new field and then select field calculator. So you are about to do a calculate outside of an edit session. This method is faster than calculating an edit session, but there is no way to undo. So do you wish to continue? Yes, it won't affect our results. So click yes, and here in this window you can do some calculations on the field. So in this panel you can write your queries. So as much as you can, do not use your keyboard to type the name of the fields or other queries, because ArcMap is very sensitive to the field name and also it is case sensitive. So just use the button in panel provided, so this button that are provided by the ArcMap to write your queries. And so we're gonna calculate rate in 1999, which is number of the cases over population in 1999. So let's open the parentheses. So there is no parentheses, so we need to use keyboard, but after that I do not type the name. So double click death underscore 1999 over population 1999 and then close the parentheses and times 100,000. So because I want to see the result per 100,000 person. So click OK, And here you can see that it calculates the crude rate for each state in the US. So for Ohio, it was 222% per 100,000. Okay, 222 breast cancers per 100,000. So now you should repeat this process and calculate the crude rate for the year 2015. So add a new field, rate underscore 2015 with the data type of double. Okay, and again right click here, field calculator, yes, clear the query, previous query, and type number of open parentheses, number of death over population 2015, close the parentheses, and then times 100,000. Click OK. So that's the rate for the year 2015. And now you can calculate changes in crude rate from 1995 to 2015. So again, add a new field with the name of rate underscore change. With the data type of double. Click OK. So it's the name of the field is lengthy, so it removed the last character, so it's okay. Click yes, so it doesn't have E, and then right click on the field calculator, and then here we have the difference between the rates that we calculated. Okay, so it's rate 2015 minus rate 99, and then click OK. So now we've done with the calculations. We have calculated both crude rate for 1999 and crude rate for 2015, and also variations of rates from 1999 to 2015. So this is a single color map, and so let's close this open attribute table, and then so this is a single color map and is not informative. Okay, based on, so we're gonna make a map based on these fields that you just generated. You have to create 3 different maps, also called Choropleth maps or shaded maps. So how we can make a map based on a field? So you have to right click on the name of the shapefile in the layer that you want to create a map based on it. Okay, so we're gonna make a map based on this shapefile. Right click on it and then select properties. Here in the symbology tab, you have to go to the symbology tab and then quantities for numeric variables. Categories is for the categorical variable. So here you can specify that based on which field we are going to make a map. We're going to make a map based on first rate 1999, and then click OK. So here you can see that in Florida we had higher rate of breast cancer in 1999, and so forth, and you can explain the distribution of the breast cancer in 1999. So you can also change the color of this map. Again, go to the properties, symbology, such as you can use this color. Green shows very low and red shows very high. Okay. You can also change these values. Instead of these values, we can use very low, low, medium, high, very high. So here you can change these values to very, this is just for the label, it's not the actual value. Very low, low, medium, high, and very high. Apply. Okay, you can see that. So in the legend, the values, the breast cancer in 1999 changes to very low, low, medium, high, very high. Don't forget that these values are based on 100,000 people. So if you want to mention the values instead of this description, you have to change this to breast cancer per 100,000. Okay, don't forget to put this value if you want to use the numbers instead of description, very low, low, medium, high, very high. So the next thing is that we need to add a label to identify the name of the states. Okay, so sometimes you need to put a label to your map, to the features on the map. So in order to add the label, we have to go to the properties and then labels tab, and here you have to check this box, label features in this layer, and we're gonna make a label based on the name of the states, right? So we have to find the state, apply, and OK. So you can see that based on the name of the states, it adds a label. If in some areas maybe the label is a little bit large, so you can again go to the symbology. You can double click or go to the symbology. There is no difference. You can change the size of the label to a smaller size. And also you need to add all of the necessary elements that you are familiar with them, such as neat line, such as title. And keep in mind that for large areas such as US, it doesn't make sense to add north arrow and a scale bar. So do not use north arrow and a scale bar for very large areas. And finally, export the map as a JPEG file. So this one shows the spatial distribution of breast cancer in 1999. You also have to create map based on the spatial distribution of breast cancer in 2015, and also changes from 1999 to 2015. So you have to repeat the steps and create only in the symbology tab and create a map of rate in 2015 and then export it as a JPEG file, and also for the changes in the spatial variation. Suppose that I created the map in the layout view and added all of the necessary elements and I export it. After that, I have to go to the properties, symbology, and here I have to make a map based on rate change. And here again you can change the labels to numbers, or you can apply and OK. So you can see that in some areas we had increase in breast cancer, or highest increase in breast cancer where occurred in Alaska, New Mexico, Michigan, Kentucky, and so forth. And we had highest increase between 3 to 31. In some areas we had lowest increase or negative increase in the breast cancer rate in such as South Dakota and Florida and so forth.